A few years ago, my wife took me to this exhibit that came to Arizona. It revolved around one of the biggest maritime disasters in history, and that was the Titanic. According to them, this was a piece of coal off of that ship. Came with a certificate of authenticity, but you never know, but we'll at least go with in good faith I wasn't lied to. But it's a fitting kind of example I'm wanting to give that, Phil Spencer was able to take the brand Xbox that hit the proverbial iceberg and rescue it from complete disaster. Meanwhile, if we flash forward to 2023, we now see Jim Ryan deciding to hit his own iceberg and make some pretty downright insulting comments towards his own brand, showing that he has absolutely no faith in the company that he represents and the studios that work for him. Let's dig into it. So, if you can't tell, I'm a big, shall I say, connoisseur of history. I love learning about it, and I find a lot of things that take place actually give us a good example of where we are going, especially if we don't learn our damn lesson. Some of these lessons have been provided by Xbox. I mean, take a look at how Phil Spencer got promoted into the position he is in today. He was able to put himself in a position of leadership after the leadership that was before him decided to completely botch the release of the Xbox One and try to force consumers into something that they really wanted no part of, which was the entertainment box. But to be absolutely honest, it really showed Phil Spencer's absolute dedication to a brand that he's actually dedicated a good majority of his life to. He was able to show that he not only had faith in the brand, but enough faith in the brand to know that that brand would be able to find its own way without having to do some of the other things that other bigger brands have had to do to make themselves relevant. Microsoft has always been a leader of their own way, we'll just call it. Beating to the sound of their own drum, carving out their own path. The best example that I've been able to always live my life by is sometimes the destination of your destiny has always been predetermined, but your journey of getting there, that's up to you. And that is definitely something that could be said about Xbox, is they've always had that opportunity to definitely compete and make a name for themselves, but their journey there has definitely been a lot of trials and tribulation. But Phil Spencer's faith never waned in the brand, we'll just say that. And some of the lessons that they showed was putting way too much faith into third-party developers causing great harm to the Xbox brand. We all saw how Platinum Games mismanaged funds that were provided to them and got a very, very important game for the Xbox ecosystem canceled and scalebound. We saw complete studio mismanagement that created the situation where they had to close Lionhead Studios. And Phil Spencer has even come out and said that was regretful and a lesson learned, that sometimes meddling in these studios exactly isn't the best course of action. But when it comes to what Jim Ryan has done to the PlayStation brand, I really can't at least argue with the fact that, he's bringing games to PC. He knows he has to increase the revenue. But I also feel that he definitely earned his nickname of Dancing Shoes Jim Ryan, of kind of having the ability to make fans think that a game was somehow exclusive to the PS5 and then stealth launching it on the PS4 alongside the PS5 version. We all saw this with Miles Morales and a couple other titles. But when it really comes to Jim Ryan and the situation that he's created for the PlayStation brand, it comes down to his statements that he just came out in his basically the observations of the findings to the addendum that the CMA gave out at the end of March. And it was that whole statement that if anything was to happen to Call of Duty, it would harm PlayStation to a point where they, in Jim Ryan's word, our business would never recover. I kind of looked a little confused myself if you're looking at me confused, but keep in mind, those are Jim Ryan's words. I'm not fabricating that. And if you really look at the big problem, as you can see, they are totally invested in a third-party game, which, again, Microsoft has told them that is not the way to be with your brand. But in their complaint on the 31st, they mentioned Call of Duty 56 different times. But it's interesting that people are just now figuring it out that Jim Ryan has no faith in the PlayStation brand. This has been something I have been trying to point out for a while now, and it became really, really apparent for me as early as March 1st, 30 days before the findings came out for the addendum. And this was the Sony Interactive Entertainment's observations on the CMA's provisional findings for their Phase 1 investigation. And in that one, Jim Ryan and the executives over at Sony decided to mention Call of Duty 64 times. So they mentioned it more than the one that they just released. And it had such great statements like, Call of Duty's best days are ahead. The latest title, Modern Warfare 2, had huge success, generating revenue over $1 billion in just 10 days, becoming the fastest selling game in the franchise's history. Well, I believe I just read an article the other day about how even Hogwarts Legacy is selling better than Call of Duty at this point, and that hype for Call of Duty's current game has already waned and died off, because really we've always heard that, you know, the success around the Call of Duty franchise is really starting to wear thin on gamers, and that a lot more games that are a lot more appealing at this point, it just feels like everybody's just kind of stuck in this loop of the same old repetitious thing of you go out and buy your Call of Duty every year, but eventually that whole habitual thing is probably going to end up dying off, but that's another argument. Going back to the article though, they even made more comments towards Call of Duty, but this is where it gets even more disgusting, and the first party studios thing comes into play. SIE, having a strong catalog of first-party games, says nothing about the importance specifically of Call of Duty as an input, given the differentiation in games. In any event, the data shows that Call of Duty alone stands far above SIE's entire first-party catalog. I would actually like to say that I think I really disagree with that statement. I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn, great game. I still need to play Horizon Forbidden West. Spider-Man. I could probably go on about how Uncharted made me buy a PlayStation. Not frickin' Call of Duty. Moving on. Call of Duty drives nearly redacted as much engagement as SIE's top first-party games combined. For perspective, Destiny, Sony's main active first-person shooter franchise, has less than of Call of Duty's gameplay and games spent on PlayStation. They're basically saying that even Destiny can't hold a flame to Call of Duty. I bought Destiny. I think I've got more money invested into Destiny than I do Call of Duty. When it comes to multi-game subscriptions, it is beyond doubt that Game Pass is far ahead of PlayStation Plus. They said it, not me. SIE cannot protect against the loss of Call of Duty. Given the importance of Call of Duty, SIE cannot effectively protect against a Microsoft foreclosure strategy. Yes, you can. Microsoft does not plan to foreclose, but it was your initiative to foreclose on your own titles like Resistance: The Fallen Man and Killzone and other great potential multiplayer hits. Where's The Last of Us 2's multiplayer? At any rate, SIE's recent development experience of shooter battle royale games is limited, and its main active shooter franchise is significantly less impactful than Call of Duty. Destiny, SIE's main active first-person shooter franchise, has only redacted of the gameplay hours and redacted of the game spent of Call of Duty in 2021, And their final big statement that was released in their article on March 1st was, while there may be a wide range of studios that may help SIE produce hit titles, producing one as durable and successful as Call of Duty would be close to impossible. Again, I think you have some of the top talent in the industry, and I really do feel you are underestimating your own studios, Jim Ryan. Here I am, primarily an Xbox owner, but I am a multi-console owner. I love all of gaming. And if fans haven't picked up on it yet, I really have not dug too much at PlayStation. I've taken a really big dig at Jim Ryan and how he has completely ran PlayStation. I'm not going to disagree, again, with him deciding to make those games more accessible to players like on PC, and even trying to compete with Game Pass in some half-ass way. But what's really interesting is what brought me to my statements at the beginning of this video about Phil Spencer kind of got his position because, I mean, he earned that position. That was where he was needed. We all know that the leadership that was in charge of Microsoft really ran the Xbox One generation into the ground in the beginning. And Phil Spencer was able to turn it around, studio purchases, taking back the power crown with the Xbox One X, and giving us the Xbox Series family of consoles, which actually are some really, really nice, well put together machines. But let's look at Jim Ryan. He decided to get his job by completely booting Sean Layden out the door very unceremoniously. You know, that whole thing, hey, you know, good luck, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. But can we really honestly say Jim Ryan was the right man for the job? He's a numbers and figures guy. He's not a gamer. I mean, Phil Spencer talks all the time about playing Destiny and other games and actually actively engaging with the ecosystem that he represents. I actually wonder if Jim Ryan even knows what a PlayStation controller even feels like, let alone knows how to operate the damn buttons. But again, Jim Ryan, it appears me, somebody who happens to be a guy that has you know, an Xbox blitzed out freaking chain and other Xbox flair, I have more faith in your brand than you do. It's very, very sad. And I really hope at this point you would just please stop with the arguments that you were giving to the world regulators. You are at this point making yourself look really bad. And I'm really kind of wondering what the future is going to hold for you after this deal, because at this point, I feel you have done more harm to your brand than help it by trying to block this deal. And you never know, man. I think it is time for maybe you to decide to not work for Sony anymore, but maybe take a back seat and find somebody who's a better face for the company and actually radiate some faith in the brand that I know should be there. Again, these are just my opinions. If you want to really get up in arms with me and hate on me, or even agree with me, please take it out on the comment section below. I do read them. I am actually very grateful for everybody who watches my content, interacts with my content. Again, whether you are here to enjoy the content or get on your feelings and really voice your frustrations with me in the comments, I'm always there to listen. And please, for those that really, really enjoy the content here, be sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff that YouTube always likes to see happen with these videos. And as always, please check out my latest video at the end card here. And until next time, everybody, I am Centurion 1307, and thank you for watching, and you have yourselves a great day.